that the kind of premise for today was this idea of like memoir and story. And this is the first session, so I actually kind of wanted to craft this so that it's, I guess, something useful to think about as y'all go through the rest of the day and go through the rest of the sessions. So I wanted to talk to y'all about, first and foremost, why I wrote a book. I'm assuming that some folks here will get some later, so that'll make sense. I wrote a book, obviously. And when we think about story, like, if I was to ask, what's your story? Like if I just met you, right, like at a random place, and was like, hey, what's your story? Like, what would you say? Like, what would be like kind of just like the quick elevator, pitch? And I'm not just gonna ask you, I'm gonna ask a couple of y'all, so you just happen to be the unfortunate person who's first. Just your average high school kid. Purple sweater right there. Yeah. It was the glasses. It drew me right to you. What's your story? I can't hear you. You gotta like probably yell it out. What? That was a yell? What's the story? Okay, we're gonna come back to you. What's your story? Besides being very prepared, which I appreciate. Quiet girl. We got an average high schooler. We got a quiet girl. What's your story right here in the hoodie with the smirk? Yeah. Ha 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 ha. Uh-huh. Tulane student excited about life. Okay, so every single person had to obviously write a different answer. But what does that actually tell me about any of these three people? Yeah, like it gives me nothing. It gives nada, zilch. Purple shirt, purple sweater. What's your story? You thought I was, did I lie? I don't lie, girl. I told you I was coming back to you. What's your story? Yell it out, think quick. I mean, the bar was set pretty low because, we was giving one-word answers over here. What's the story? Content creator. I know you are not sitting over there acting shy when you talk to a camera all day. Okay, I got something for you because we're actually going to talk about content creation in a second. So I think I didn't realize how important like story or narrative was to my life until after I wrote a book, and which is obviously weird because I'm a writer, but it wasn't about this idea. It's not that corny shit of like everyone's story matters. Like, yeah, it wasn't that. After I wrote my book, I had the realization that the stories that I was kind of telling about myself, which honestly arguably are the most important ones that we'll ever hear or tell, they were like shaping where I was like headed and like where I was going in life. And so it got to a point where now I personally feel like I can tell I can have a good read on like how I'm doing like in life if I feel like my story is or is not aligned to where I want it to go. So like y'all don't know me, so this might be like hard to kind of process. So let's like take it a step back and think about people who tell stories all the time, right? Which is like celebrities, okay? Let's say Ice Spice. Okay. Raise your hand if you like Ice Spice. Raise your hand if you don't. Okay. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not gonna hold you. But I think, I think that, so for someone who raised their hand and said they like Ice Spice, can you just tell me why? Y'all raise your hands real quick. I said they didn't really like Ice Spice. It was yeah.
She doesn't have any authenticity. No subject matter. The hair just gets.
She's boring, right? Like she does like, and I knew that because I liked Ice Spice when she first came out, and then like we got a little bit, we got to like Deli, and I was like, okay, like the videos look the same, the clothes look the same, everything looks the same, like it just there was no story, like there was nothing, right? Now let's compare that to somebody like a Megan Thee Stallion, right? Hold on. Give me a second. Give me a second. But if I ask, like, so for example, you like Ice Spice, right? You said that she just be chatting. But like, what's Ice Spice's story? Like, and not just what you know about, like, where she's from, but like, what's exactly, like, what is the story that she's like telling? Like, I feel like with Meg, right, you know, okay, this is a college girl, she like to turn up, she like to drink and kick it with her friends. So like, all of that comes through in like who she is, how she dressed, how she talk. Like, there's a little bit of an alignment. You feel like you know something about her, right? So, with that in mind, now to the three people who, the four actually, who answered my question about your story. I'm sorry to y'all because y'all are actually like the designated volunteers for this entire talk because I'm gonna come back to y'all. So just keep that in mind because I'm going somewhere with this. So if Ice Spice and Megan Thee Stallion were sitting in this audience, right, and I was to ask them like, what's their story? Ice probably would have said, Grah, and then Meg would have said, you know what I mean? And then Meg would have been like, it's Megan Thee Stallion, motherfucker H-Town had a hot girl coach. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, you see how, like, quickly and easily that just, like, I just get, is it just me? Like, y'all can tell me if I'm wrong, but, okay, fair. Now, who I do like is Riot, who makes all the Ice Spice beats. Because I'm going to listen every time they come on. I do just want to make that clear. I'm going to listen every time an Ice Spice song come on because the production is top tier. Now, I'm not assuming that part of the reason I thought that angle would be because I knew that I'm talking to a little bit of a younger crowd. And so it wasn't so much about the rappers. That's just my lane because I like female rap. But it's because a lot of folks, I mean, even my generation included, like, as a millennial who, like, started to come of age on the internet, but y'all were, like, born into the internet, right? So much of y'all lives is wrapped up in essentially just storytelling and, like, who it is that y'all are presenting yourselves to be. So, like, even if, okay, so, like, show of hands, who here has ever made a TikTok? Come on, purple shirt. Don't play with me. Okay. If you've made a TikTok, keep your hand up high. Okay. If you've ever liked or favorited a TikTok, raise your hand. If you've ever seen a TikTok, and keep your hands raised, everybody. If you've ever seen a TikTok and sent it to someone else. So basically that means almost everybody, okay, you can raise your hand. You can lower your hand, friend. Thank you, though. Almost everybody in this room, right, has participated in some sort of like storytelling through just that medium. Because even what you like, even what you favorite, even what you send to somebody else is essentially like a reflection of what it is that you're trying to say about yourself. So if you think that this is something that resonates, or even if you think it's something that resonates with somebody else, you're sending it because you want to show that, or even because you want to show another person that you rock with them and you know what resonates with them. So, okay. Tulane student excited about life. What's your story? Look at that. Look at that. Quiet person. What's your story? Okay, quiet person. There's not much really. Okay.
I say like my story is just beginning, like in chapter, really. So young.
Period. Quiet persons, not much because the story's just beginning because I'm young. Content creator, what's your story?
I make content based on.
You cheated because somebody just told you to say that, but I got you though. No, bitch, I do want to know what you make content about.
Yeah, I make travel content, hotel resorts, Airbnbs, things like that.
Ooh. Okay, jump back. Average girl, what is your story?
There's average girl.
Average girl know who average girl is, so I'm looking right at average girl.
I was born here in Louisiana, never really left, still here. I graduated 8th grade at China Lori and following my brother's footsteps at East St. John, hoping to get a degree in lit.
Mm. Look at that. Thank you. Okay, so I want to obviously, like my book and a lot of what I do is about Black girls, and I think storytelling is something that stuck with me because we obviously have there are a lot of stories that are told about Black girls all over. Actually, here I'll read you a direct quote from my book. Actually, when I was kind of thinking through this, people try to erase ratchet Black girls at every turn. But we are not siloed, and our impact is undeniable. In the same way that hip-hop is consumed by diverse audiences all over the world, so are the trends that are set by ghetto-ass Black girls. Our style, our language, our beauty resonate with people across different backgrounds. Just look at all of the white influencers who are making millions by appropriating Black culture or flat-out Black fishing. Everyone wants a fat ass and a colorful weave. It's not a coincidence that the editor who ended up being most excited about the potential of this very book was a white woman. God bless you, Hillary, no shade. People are obsessed with hood bitches, whether we care to admit it or not. And that's all, really, isn't it? But I had to learn that the story for me was a constant conversation. The story here was not always the story there. It always mattered how the story was told and who the story was told to and who was listening. Perfect example. Pardon me, I have to go back to female rap for a second. Bigfoot guys, first of all, Barbs, relax. Is there any Barbs in here? Because y'all can just go right now. Because I don't have time today, okay? Listen. And if y'all put my address on here, it's gonna be a problem. Don't send nobody to my house. Bigfoot felt one way in the tweets, right? And Bigfoot felt a different way in the song. And part of the reason Bigfoot felt the way he did in the song was because of the tweets, etc. That is like a perfect prime example of the medium mattering to the story. But more importantly, it's a perfect example of who you think is listening impacting the story. Okay, so now it's time for me to tell y'all some of my business. So when I was 19, I got arrested. Did y'all see them clutch their pearls over there when I said that? Y'all are funny. Okay, so let me tell y'all why I got locked up, because I know y'all finna be trying to Google me. You ain't gonna be able to find it. It was a long time ago. So when I was 19, I was a booster, right? Y'all know what that is? Or was that like Chicago language? Oh, okay, y'all got boosters out here, cool. Okay. So when I was 19, I was a booster. And I got arrested, right? But the arrest is less important. I actually want to read what I wrote about my time as a booster, right? Okay. So in hindsight, and it's been a very long time since I've stolen anything, I know now that I was getting off on the power of it all. I liked having access to things I couldn't afford, finessing people around me to see what I wanted them to see, and being successful at something. Because also at this point in time, I was failing out of college, but that's a different chapter. Y'all have to read the book, child. I was at the very beginning of adulthood, and none of that shit was going how I thought it would. I wasn't nearly as grown as I thought I was. Oh, here we are. I damn near failed out of school in the first year, but was still too proud to consider changing my major from biology to something that suited my actual skills as a communicator and critical thinker. I was overdrawing my checking account every time I got paid and had no idea where my life was headed. Every time I made it out of a store with something I hadn't paid for, it felt like a win. Something was going right for me. I could go into a store with friends who were actually buying things, walk out with a ton of shit I had stolen. They wouldn't even have a clue until we were in the car headed home. Sometimes I'd even buy a couple things and triple the amount of stuff in my bag. I made sure that I interacted with the staff. In department stores, I would chat up sales associates, sometimes with merchandise in my hand where they could see it. Even if the loss prevention folks had pinged me as suspicious when I walked in, I imagined them relaxing and moving on to someone else after they saw me cozied up with the sales associate Barb in the plus size section. Most importantly, though, I followed my instincts. If I ever had an inkling that someone was on to me, I was comfortable putting every single item back on the shelf, abandoning the mission. But my biggest advantage was that I knew how to look like a shopper. This is partly because I worked in retail since I was a teenager, but it's also because I had certain advantages that maybe other black girls did not. Even if my grades sucked and I was only a year removed from living in the middle of active gang territory, I was now a student at one of the best public research institutions in the country. I was better at code switching in a way that could occasionally impress and disarm white folks. My clothes did not always work for my shape. Oh, plus size fashion was bad back then. Or my comfort, but I only occasionally dressed in anything that was immediately off-putting or that even screamed hood rat. As much as I could, as a fat black girl, I fit in, which was a privilege in itself. When I was arrested in 2007, which was the first and only time I ever got caught, it wasn't because I got lazy or fell off my game. I was committed to my normal routine, which was basically the normal story. But I carelessly introduced an unpredictable element into the formula of friends. That's some tea for another day. I'll let y'all get into that at another time. No, we're not friends no more. But I think about that part of my life a lot and how much story was survival, but also how much the story of who I told myself was continuously led me down a path of, well, we'll just say jail and everything that comes with that, right? I'm trying to figure out how to say this part delicately because I know we have young people in the building. But I think that y'all are getting a little mature, so I'll just kind of say it how I have it here. I thought that the only way for people to like never fuck with me was for me to always like fuck over other people first. And that wasn't untrue. But what was also true is that because I was always trying to fuck over people first, that also meant like at some point the stories write themselves. So because I chose that meant that I always also had to be on defense. That meant that I always had to be kind of looking over my shoulder to wait to see who was going to kind of bounce back and what was going to happen and how was I cleaning up my tracks and how was I making sure that the impact of this wasn't coming here. And it was a lot of looking back and looking around. Like it never gave me any time to like look this way. So yes, that was a strategy that worked honestly fine for exactly where I was. It did absolutely nothing for me trying to figure out what the next word or line or paragraph on the page was going to be in terms of where my life was headed. And I mentioned this at the beginning, but it had everything to do with like the story that I told myself about myself. I know I just read y'all this quote about how, and also like that quote was about black girls, but that is going to be a story for everybody in this room. There are going to be stories that are told about, black men, about black queer folks, about black non-binary folks, about people who identify as women, about people who identify as trans across the racial spectrum, about people who are disabled, about people who are from any number of marginalized groups. We are constantly engaged in a conversation, whether we admit it or whether we are conscious of it or not, in a conversation about who we are versus the conversation we know other people having about who they think we are. Shit gets lit when you know the path for yourself in the middle. Average girl who is from Louisiana, who followed in your brother's footsteps. What's the story? Think about it. I want to come back to you. Los Angeles college student excited about life because you were raised on a foundation of education. What's your story?
I'm someone who puts a lot of hard work into the results that I get out of life, and so I hold myself to a very high standard in a lot of aspects of my life. And so I do my best in everything that I attempt. But at the same time, I also don't accept things I know I won't be good at, because then it kind of shatters that illusion a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I try my best to do my best at things that I know that I will excel at.
Mm-hmm. That's a word. That's how I am too. Gotta go over there. Come on, y'all know who y'all learn, who the mic is coming to. Y'all want to talk amongst yourselves about which one y'all gonna go first? Or okay, content creator. Story.
Living for free.
You said living for free?
Yes.
Oh. That's where the story's headed. Yeah, and I'm with you. Okay. I know the story's just beginning.
So basically, I guess, looking for my way of life, my foundation, my
Mhm.
future,
Mhm.
what to become of myself.
Mhm. That's good. You ready?
I'm looking forward to making my dream come true, to become stable, to be able to help my family, because I have a history of medical problems in my family. My mom is very sick, and I want to be able to help her one day.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. Did y'all notice how every single time I asked the question of the story, it was different? It wasn't necessarily longer or shorter. It wasn't necessarily, in some cases it was, in some cases it wasn't. But it was different. all of what they said was true the first time I asked them. They told me more, one, because I kept asking. Well, probably it's the main reason because I kept asking. But also because as I sat up here and rambled and read off my iPad and couldn't find my pages, etc., the circumstances under which they had to tell the story were like changing in real time. Oh no. What they didn't know when I first asked them was that I was going to ask them again. What they didn't know maybe when I first asked them was that I had gotten arrested. What they didn't know was that, oh, this is part of the presentation that I'm doing and that is going to go on. And every single part of those info points changed exactly how they responded. Now, that's a metaphor for life. I don't know how else to say that. At every single juncture, at every single point, something is going to change, and what that is going to mean is that your viewpoint and your perspective is going to change. The story that you have about yourself, the story that people around you have, they're going to change as you like move through different parts of this thing we call life. If you stay in your hometown forever, it's even going to change then because you're going to grow older and have different life circumstances. If you move to different states and different countries, it's going to change. If you make different friends, it's going to change. You start dating somebody else, it's going to change. You decide to be a barb, it's going to change. You said something so profound because what you said was you were trying to find and establish your foundation. And I just want to say that you do not have to worry because the fact that you know that you need a foundation is you are already ahead. Everything that I'm talking about is about a foundation. It's about with 2 feet on the ground, I know exactly which way I want to turn and which way I want to go. Or not even I know exactly which way I want to, I know that I have to, and I feel comfortable in like which way to go. Like that's foundation. And I am curious. I would like to kind of get a gauge, like y'all don't have to raise your hands, just like a little nod, a little affirmative eye contact. Do folks feel like they have a solid foundation? Okay, some folks do and some folks don't. Okay. I'm not calling nobody out. For the folks that feel like they don't, come find me. In case any of you want to know how I escaped jail and grew up to be a baddie. It's that actually has I don't want to get emotional. That had everything to do with who I shared the story with. I have a chapter. I'm not going to read it. That's what I'm going to skip over. I dedicated an entire chapter of my book to like friendships, right? And I basically was writing extensively about how kind of at every like gap or hole or point of veering off course, there were always these like very specific like chosen folks who either directly or indirectly or voluntarily or involuntarily were able to kind of get me back on the foundation, to get me back on the solid ground. And they didn't do that by just hearing the story. They did that by helping me tell it. This is the Black Women's Health Conference. And so obviously, like, health is this holistic concept that spans emotional wellness and health, physical wellness and health, spiritual wellness and health for some folks who believe in ourselves as spiritual beings. But the folks around you, part of what helped me go from this person who felt like I had to get over on folks before they could get over on me, was that I had to stop looking at other people that were in the world as not influential at all on my life and my story and where it was going. I think content creator will probably relate to this. So y'all know TikTok has the feature, right? So like as a content creator, you make the videos, right? But you have people who comment, right? So TikTok said, we're gonna have a feature where you directly can just upload another video based on, replies to a comment, essentially, right? I don't know if y'all ever seen that. That's on the interface. To me, that was so symbolic of, I'm not saying TikTok is healthy in any way, but to me, that was so symbolic, though, of a healthy kind of like symbiotic relationship between like you as an individual existing in the world and like having people who you may or may not know who will always be impacted by that, and how you have to constantly be engaged in that back and forth. Because sometimes based on just what those comments are and like how you choose to reply to them, it defines like whatever the next piece of thing that you might make is, right? I think that is such a strong metaphor for how storytelling actually works. And if we actually go back and look at the kind of like historical, like ancient practices of storytelling, it was like a collective group effort where like people would like actively like add to stories like as they were being told. And so foundation and community is essentially how you tell a good story, a story that matters, and a story that pushes you in like one direction or the other. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna close it with that. I actually want to leave a little bit of time to first of all thank, I'm just call y'all Tulane student, average girl, quiet girl, content creator, because all of y'all actually just want a cash app for y'all's participation today. So come see me after. See, y'all was so uncomfortable. You're gonna be living for free a little bit today. And then I also just want to open it up for questions. This is like a new kind of, I usually like pick something directly from my book and like talk about it and expand on it. I wanted to play with something a little bit more interactive today, but yeah, I want to open it up for questions, conversation. Mm-hmm.
What do you do to protect your mental health?
I'm in a place right now, actually, where I feel like my mental health does not require a lot of protection, actually. And I do think that we spend a lot of time talking about like how you protect your mental health, that's such a big conversation, and I think getting to a place where you don't have to ask how your mental health needs to be protected. Would you like to know why I maybe don't feel like my mental health needs to be protected? Okay. One, because I treated my mental health when I realized that shit was, whoa, I realized it was a little off. I also have been, again, very intentional about just like my community, who I am. I have very high standards, I'm not gonna hold you. Like I'm also a Capricorn, so I'm very easily kind of rigid in that way. But I do think that once I got to a place where I realized that like I am the only person who is in control of what happens to me. I am the only person who is in control of what happens to me, what happens in my life. Obviously, like we're all going to be victims to things that are out of our control at some point in our lives, but ultimately, like, it's on us. Like, we are the ones who have to stand on business at all times because we are the only ones who, like, period. And I really feel like once I really, really understood that, I didn't really have to protect my mental health. Now, what I do have to do is take my ADHD medication every day because, baby, if not that, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need a little coffee, and I'm gonna need to unplug. But yeah, I don't really feel like my mental health like needs protection. And I do feel I want to encourage more folks to let that go. Like, do your mental health need protection, or are you just having a bad time right now? And you actually good. Like it'll pass. Like sometimes I feel like that creates like some anxiety where we feel like we always have to be like, my mental health, what am I doing for it? You know. But like if you actually need to like treat your mental health or improve your mental health, definitely like do that. But like protect, I don't know, because like it's your mental health. Like what's gonna happen to it?
So as you talk about your journey in your book, did it take a lot of self-care? Do you do a lot of self-care?
Oh yeah. I mean, you want to know like what?
Yeah.
Oh, everything. Honestly, I feel like everything I do is self-care. Like I mean, yeah. Like I just take care of myself. Like it just in general. Like I mean, that's everything from like getting my hair done to like making sure I go get my teeth cleaned every 6 months at the dentist. Like it's free. Like and I have the insurance. Like and I won't nasty teeth. Like you know what I mean. So yeah, I do just take care of myself. But I am glad you asked that because I do feel like that is a little bit of a foreign concept to folks, and it's not personal. I just think that because we live in like a very so much of us are really just trying to get like basic necessities. I think that it can feel like that type of stuff is not as important. But yeah, I think I take care of myself. But I will say this, I want to be clear that like self-care for me is not like that is not like leading me towards like a better quality of life. I think being able to have self-care is the result of being well, and like that's how I'm even able to do that because I'm in a good place, and I do think we should remember that because I don't know sometimes like if we see somebody who's unhoused on the street, right, like we see them like you know and they might like have a smell, like we have a rational like train of thought that's like okay, they probably don't have access to the things that they need to have like clean clothes or you know whatever. But sometimes I don't think we give ourselves that same grace of a storyline. Like I remember in college, like do you know how many days in college, like if depending on like how crazy the night got before, I had to just run to class without a shower in the same sweatpants, just like some sweatpants I found on the floor, like just rush to class, like, and then have to like essentially take care of myself at like 2 p.m. instead of 8 or 9 a.m. when I was up, you know what I mean? Like just because, you know, and like, yeah, to me, that was a result of my like recklessness, not necessarily like you get what I'm saying? It didn't make me better at class that I was gonna get a shower at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. That's what I'm trying to say. I saw somebody else's hand raised over here that had a question right at the same time. Oh yeah, what's up? Shout out to the Cappies. Which one of you, somebody nodded. Where is the barb that was in here that I saw earlier? That was like a real aggressive nod from a barb earlier. I think it was in this row right here. Was that you? Okay, all right. Any other questions, follow-ups, and then I have one more thing I'm gonna throw out. Go ahead. Oh, I'm a Capricorn, a Scorpio rising, and a Virgo moon. Yeah, I'm like a stellum Capricorn though, like so I have multiple like important Capricorn play. I'm very much so like a Capricorn. Mm.
How do you bring your work and your experiences into the community, the people you live with?
I'm sorry, repeat your question.
How do you bring like the work that you've done and what you've learned from your experience into the community?
And you say and people I live with.
I mean, people you live with, referring to like the community you live in.
The community I live in, okay. So I live in a place that I am not from. I'm originally from Chicago. I live in Newark, New Jersey. It's like right outside of New York. I just moved there in July. So I don't bring anything to that community yet. But, I mean, I guess except rent. But I love that you framed it like that, because a lot of how I was able to build this framework is because of community work that I was doing with, there's this amazing woman by the name of Dr. Ruth Nicole Brown, who runs this collective called Soul High. And it was just, wow, it just hit me right now. Actually, so much of what we did in Soul High was different forms of storytelling. Like we would always do like art, and like we would like make our own documentaries, and it was just like supposed to be like this like celebration of Black girlhood, right? And that was actually something that I kind of carry with me, like at every part of my life as I like moved on my career after college. I was always trying to seek out opportunities to like be among people whose stories had been like warped or told for them, and who needed to step more actively into the process of telling it for themselves. So my first my first career, actually, before I worked in media, I actually like worked in politics a little bit. I actually worked for Planned Parenthood, right? And reproductive justice was something that was like extremely important to me, because I felt like the stories about like the main patients of like, you know, of Planned Parenthood, right? People who are low income, people who may or may not be sexually active, people who are usually people of color, and people who are young, like young people. We have all of these like statistics and stories about how like they're at risk and they're da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like, right? But like, how do they get to then inform like like their own story of like what their sexuality is and how they're moving through the world? So like, I was always kind of drawn to work like that. And then even once I got into media, it was not a lot of Black folks in media. So like, I even just found myself having to like collectively organize the Black folks. During 2020, there was this big, I don't know if folks heard about it, but like there was this big reckoning of like Black folks at all of these publications calling out the racism that they had experienced. Like I was a part of that. Like, so I don't know. I like that you asked that though, because I think that that's like an important reminder for me and like for everybody to be thinking about. Like, it's one thing to like sit and think something, but like, how do you move it into action, right? And like, and there are gonna be, I do also wanna say, there are gonna be times in your life where like, that can't be a part of the story, because you really do need to focus on just like what you're doing for the community of yourself, right? But I really appreciate that question.
Hello.
Oh, yes, hi.
My name is Brandon Banks. I just wanted to thank you, one, for your time, and two, for your story. I've been in a lot of spaces, and we talk a lot about storytelling and the power of storytelling. And when we think back to our history and our ancestors and some of the stuff that we know now, we live and we ride on a lot of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we cry on some of those
Mm-hmm.
stories. So not only did you tell us your story,
A little bit of it.
but you also taught a lot of individuals in the room how to start telling their own stories. So I just want to thank you and appreciate you for that.
Thank you. And can I just say, more important than telling the story is to like live in it. Like live in it. Like live in what you want to give back to your family. Like let that, like there are gonna be so many decisions, right, that you have to make about like, should I take this job or this job? Should I apply for this job or this job? Should I move here or move there? And like, but if that's the story, right? And also the story can change. Not to say that that's always gonna be the case, but like, it's not enough to just like tell it to know it. It's like, do you live in it? Other questions?
How did you develop your self-confidence and positivity? I'm the mother of 3 beautiful young girls who are married right now. But we came here from Brooklyn, New York today.
Shout out to BK. I used to live in Bed-Stuy.
And I see how they struggle with, those items. So I'm curious how you have developed yourself in that way.
Okay. There was another part of my book actually that I was gonna read from, that is a chapter that I wrote about confidence, because I think sometimes confidence can seem a little bit too like vague and abstract. And sometimes, remember when somebody asked Rihanna this question and she was like, oh, I just fake it. Like, I'm delusional. I just fake it until I feel like that for real. Like, that's so true though. Because what she was essentially getting at is that even if you do not feel a certain amount of confidence, what actions are you putting towards being a person who has standards? So like, it's one thing, like I used to have this like, and I wrote about it, like I like got to this point where I was like, oh, like I am a feminist and a strong black woman and a get money girl, and nobody ever, you know what I'm saying, like nobody ever gonna play with me, da 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 da. And I I could say it, like I could speak it, I could say it confidently, even just like this, right? But I was broke. People was playing with me. And you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't giving. It wasn't giving what I said that it was giving. But there have also been parts in my life. There have also been parts of my life where, or I should say, well, yeah, there have been parts of my life where maybe folks were not like reading me as confident, or maybe where I didn't feel confident. But the bag was checked and the relationships were solid. And, you know, I was standing on the business that was important to me. And it didn't mean that I like felt good all the time, but like I was standing on the business regardless. And like there's an unshakability in that is gonna exist like regardless of how you feel. And to you as a mom, like watching your daughters grow up, part of it also is just you have to give them time to like figure out the business that they want to stand on. I'm assuming, how old are y'all? I don't like talking to y'all like y'all not there. How old, what's y'all ages? 14, 12, 14, 12, and 11. Yeah, like y'all are 14, 12, and 11, like so much of who y'all are is going to like morph and evolve over the coming years, like whether it's your gender, your sexuality, how what you want to do, what you want to pursue in like some of it is honestly you just need the time to just build it. Like I don't know, you're supposed to be insecure, you're supposed to be weird and awkward at 12, like you know what I'm saying, like you feel me? But there is gonna come a point where like you just have to know that like it's your life though, and like you have to be the one to live it. How do I deal with peer pressure and negativity? I am a sucker for peer pressure. I'm not even gonna hold you because I be having FOMO. I can't say that I'm great at this. My peers though are bad bitches. So I don't, like the pressure is, yes, I would say that's how I would deal with peer pressure. Carefully curate your selection of peers. Yes, that is how I would deal with peer pressure. So that the pressure, right, is what you have to lose is different. Like I think that's what I would say. Y'all, okay, wait, real quick question. Does anybody get ads on their social media about, well, no, not, I'm talking about us. Give me a second. Does anybody get this specific ad for like, it's like a workbook or something, but like the cover of the book be like, disappear for 6 months and come back reinvented. Have y'all seen that? So I think, okay, so you know they use algorithms, so I think it's probably only women of a certain, like I feel like you probably have seen it, I saw you seen it, yeah. It's like, it's something it's like this ad that is being specifically targeted, I personally feel like, to women in like a 24 to 34 demographic. I see it all the time. And I'm not buying nothing from TikTok Shop, so I cannot tell y'all what's in there. But I think it's very interesting that this specific group of women, like 18 to 34, are being targeted for this book about disappearing for 6 months and like reinventing yourself. And I say that because that was like first of all, that was a fantasy of mine that I had since like middle school. Like literally, I was that girl every school year. I was like, I'm gonna come back a whole different bitch. I'm gonna come back a whole different bitch. They don't know what happened. That never was the case. I came back the same bitch every year. Partly because I'm in middle school. Like my mama got to buy all my clothes. Like, girl, how you thought you was gonna overhaul your wardrobe? Like you don't have a job. But you know, but when I got older, right? Like when I could do it, like I would experiment with that all the time and was never afraid to do it either. And like, I don't know, like I think y'all should try it. Like, y'all might not be able to buy y'all clothes. Like, I don't know, y'all got scissors at the house. Cut your hair or something. It'll grow back. Like, just try it. Like, just try on. Like, I tried on different personalities. I tried on like different, and it just, eventually you just find yourself. Yes, one more question. Hi.
Okay, hi. I'm Dr. Shepherd from Xavier University.
Come on, doctor.
Thank you.
Period.
I really want to tell you that I appreciate the work that I've seen of you.
Thank you.
And how it is that you illuminate different potentialities for girls from the hood.
Period.
Right? But I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the application of trap feminism. And especially in the ways that people have been challenging just trap music and what gets produced. Especially when, in my mind, I'm thinking through the notion about like you just said, I hang with bad bitches.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I have to distinguish which ones is bad as in good and which ones is bad, right?
Yeah.
And because in the city right now, we're having an epidemic, I guess, where we're seeing more and more violent women offenders.
Mm-hmm.
We just recently had a major shooting that was caught on video, and a girl wound up shot in the leg, and a girl wound up stabbed in the head. And so I wanted to get your take on, because it seems like you really thought through some of these dynamics, how it is that you see trap feminism working inside of that way where, you know, just thinking through, I feel like I'm not sure how I'm going to word the question, but you get what it is that I'm talking about. How is it that we say, oh, bad bitches and embrace it? And what areas are there still open for like these other things that can be counterproductive to our communities and our togetherness? And I just wanted your take on that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So, for those who don't know, trap feminism is a feminist framework that I coined like 10 years ago. If y'all take gender studies classes in college, y'all will probably read about it. And I came to it because I was basically trying to make sense of, one, myself as a girl from the hood, but also as like just like a lover of trap music. That was definitely like the soundtrack of my coming of age. And then, you know, being like a feminist scholar who, you know, was having a deeper understanding about like gender dynamics and how they were working. So that's trap feminism 101. Or also I call it feminism for real bitches. And that's really actually the answer that I was actually getting at. When I say like my friends are bad bitches, like it really is on a foundation of their character, their authenticity, their like, I mean, because like a real baddie can take $30 into the beauty supply store and come out transformed, right? Like it's not to say that the aesthetic is like not important or even like easy to accomplish, because if that was the case, everybody would. But I just think that is just but like one element. And it goes back, I think, to the question I just answered around like selecting the peers, right? And it's about integrity and not just an egotistical integrity. sometimes I think that we often feel like the only opportunities that we have to get to show our integrity. Sometimes we are in experiences where we feel like we can only show like the best parts of our character in negative situations, like situations of conflicts, right? So like, oh, somebody talking crazy to me. So like now I gotta show that I'm somebody that's stand on business. Now I gotta show that I'm somebody that cannot be played with. Now I gotta show that I'm brave. Now that I gotta show I'm fearless. Now I gotta show that like I'm gonna protect my family. Now I have to show X, Y, and Z. But like, we actually are constantly given opportunities to show those parts of ourselves. I think that was also the transformation, a transformational moment for me when I realized that it was about like how I was showing up. Like it wasn't just my grades at school, right? That was like an indicator of whether or not I was smart or whether or not I was a good student. It was a lot more that went into that. It wasn't just about like me in different conflicts and relationships. It was about who I was choosing to be in relationships with, what I thought was what attracted me to different people and things like that. All of that played a part in my character, but I didn't know that because I thought that the experiences that define my character were all of like my hardest experiences. And that just simply is not true. As long as people are, let me just make this very clear. As long as people are broke and living in capitalism, there's going to be violence and crime. Those two things are just, period. Like that's just the reality. And because we live in a country that has industrialized crime and poverty, as the pool of folks who end up, kind of involved in violence and things like that is gonna grow. And especially now, like people are struggling more financially now. We're in a recession. So like, the numbers kind of are gonna do what they're gonna do. And I think it's actually really important for us not to try to find like reductive stories to like pin that on. Like we gotta kind of stay focused. The issues that have impacted like Black girls and women, like foundationally, a lot of them are the same now that they were 50, 60, 70 years ago. What we're seeing is different mediums of expression, different opportunities of expression. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.